Krim. His vision from the cockpit lowers. He holds the controls tight. He is used to this. After all, in the far east of the Soviet Union, there was a lot of snow. The radio shouted muffled directions and he obeyed. His vision is almost reduced to nothing. The outside of the cockpit is filled with a view of a blanket of snow. "Prepare for landing," said the radio, in a muffled voice. Moris Krim was 32, serving 3 years for the Red Army. The Cold War was a state of military and political tension between the USA and Russia. The Cold War started 2 years after World War II. Although there were no official battles between the two sides, the USA and Russia were ready to destruct the opposing side with nuclear weapons. Just about that time, Moris graduated from military pilot school, and he was assigned to serve in the far east of the Soviet Union. The circumstances in which he had to live in were very harsh. Initially, the armored pilots did not have a barracks. They instead slept in shipping containers used to transport airplanes to the base. The temperature outside was usually around minus 30 degrees Celsius. There was so much wind and snow that in order for anybody to go safely from the shipping container to somewhere else, they had to attach a rope to themselves into the container so they would not get lost or blown away. Flying an airplane was extremely dangerous in these weather conditions. For most of the time when he was flying the plane, he had to rely on the communication system linked with the base to tell him where he was going. If you were even 1 meter off, this meant he might be headed to death. One of the nerve-wracking experiences my grandpa encountered was flying in the northern lights. The lights above the North Pole change your perception, and he could not tell where the ground or the horizon is. Moris Krim also had to learn how to take off and land on ice, not a runaway like most pilots did. The government selected my grandpa's military unit to serve 3 years in the far east of the Soviet Union, in complete isolation from other people, so the troop was advised to bring a wife along. All the men got married before they left, except my grandfather. Not more than a year later, the whole unit had to support a total of 37 children, which was difficult, since they were in a complete isolation and it was hard to get enough resources for everyone. One day, a transport plane sent by the government landed at the airbase of the military unit, and all the airship brought were cows, so the children would get enough milk. After he served those 3 years in isolation, he recalls being happy to be back in civilization. Afterwards, after he finished serving in the military for 3 years, he lost his job, and at this time, it was very hard to find a job during the Cold War and all its expenses. What made it even worse is that Moris was married with 3 kids, and he could barely support them. Moris decided to get more profits in education to provide a stable source of income. Moris finally found a job working as an engineer on a submarine. This was not an ordinary submarine. The submarine set out to be the first to travel to the North Pole. This journey would take about 6 months, and his family would have no contact with him, since he is submerged a couple thousand feet underwater. He made it back fine, and he recalls the trip as being one of the most unusual escapades he went on. He immigrated to USA, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in his late 60s. My dad was working, and so was my aunt. The kids bought a nice house, which he still lives in today. My grandpa is a very humble man, and he does not brag about any of his accomplishments. Moris had sacrificed many parts of his life to be where he is today. He was a dogfighter, almost a spaceman, and an engineer. He still lives in his home in Pittsburgh, while he continues to be the most lovable and legendary grandpa ever.
И на Кубе были расположены советские ракеты. И когда об этом американцы разведали и узнали, они заблокировали Кубу, и американцы